We live in such a way that we focus a lot of our attention and energy externally. We build a career or a business. We invest time in our intimate relationships. We raise a family. And while we're building our lives, underneath all that, there's a hope for happiness, there's a hope for joy. And deeper than that, what's actually happening is that through all these external achievement or the things that we're trying to accomplish in our lives, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with any of them, but there's a deep desire for belonging. And belonging is our ability to experience our innate love and our innate value. And the thing that happens is that as we keep this focus externally, we start meeting a lot of bumps on the road. We have conflicts in our relationships. We have struggles at work, within our families. And while we're having those struggles, what happens is we get reactive. So imagine somebody gets frustrated with you or is criticizing you for something. And in that moment, we react. And what we're reacting to is not the situation or the person, but it's to the narrative that we're operating from. And the narrative goes immediately into attempting to protect our sense of love and value because we're seeking it externally. And so in that moment, that narrative will focus on the other person. So pushing against why are they so hard, or they shouldn't be this way. Or we'll start judging ourselves and start thinking, oh, maybe I'm not up to par. Maybe there's something wrong with me. And so that narrative keeps us further away from this connection to our innate love and value, and it starts to actually create more distress. And then the next step that happens is that we actually double down on this narrative. Once we become aware of the narrative, the next thing we do is we find ourselves, recognizing, I just did it again. I got reactive, I got triggered. And then we get disappointed in ourselves. We start judging ourselves. So we're using the same foundation of the narrative, which is very critical and corrective, to try to get rid of the narrative. And both of those ways of dealing with the narrative leaves us in a state of distress and further away from true belonging. So in order for us to make the first shift towards true belonging, towards reclaiming our innate love and value, is we have to understand that our narrative is something that matters. It's not something to be judged. It's an ally that's put there initially from our conditioning that we received growing up as an attempt to protect ourselves so that we can regain this love and this innate value. So my invitation is to, as a first step, learn to recognize this narrative, treat it like a friend, be gentle on yourself, and learn to pause that narrative by simply asking ourselves, what will happen if I follow this narrative? And we actually know immediately when we ask that question, because we know we've had thousands of experiences that led to disconnection, so we know exactly where that leads us. So let's empower ourselves to live differently, to start moving towards true belonging by attending to our narrative.